There is no peace to be found in this world. There's only stress and depression, distraction and suffering, frustration for what cannot be controlled, disappointment for responsibility that has failed, and disdain for the lack of hope experienced. Continually, this kind of thinking can plague the mind and sometimes leak out into the world, in forms of what is said and what is done. On the individual level, this may show up in the form of a person being frustrated with even the most minor of things, never finding peace or acceptance with anything out of anything beyond the desired efforts or outcomes, or perhaps a subtle loss of motivation, a casual creep into comfort, and then a purposeful disdain and avoidance of obstacles and challenges. Actions that could have previously been motivated by simple wants and needs turn into actions motivated by spite or hatred. These calloused hands of entitlement grab at the world that has shown them slight of respect and deprivation of dignity, firmly grasping onto what should be respectable and admired, while cold palms sweatily hide details that may diminish any perceived heights. Efforts to display superiority or living up to the badge or title became the main goal of physical works and labor. The rocks we break become the homes we make. Words meant to communicate what is observed or what is felt turn into words of assumption and expectation. These, the mournful demands of broken hearts and jaded minds, crying out into the world that should cry back just as broken and heard just as jaded. All that is said is spicy, and all that can be heard are words that burn ears. When there's something nice, it's bullshit. When there's something wrong, it's someone's fault. All things are too good to be true, and hope is for suckers. When people we like speak, they're singing the songs of angels. When people we dislike speak, they spittle out ignorant hoopla and trashy lies. Never mind the content of the words spoken by either party. All this becomes the lens the world can be seen through. A rainy day becomes a depression-filled miasma of overcast, clouded out sun, and a cold, wet, this is miserable. A sunny day becomes too hot, and this season is too much. The tone of a voice becomes some sort of attack or defense. The physical appearances of people will become political statements and social provocations. Perspective will be trapped in a prison of self-pity or the glorification of an ego that had to allegedly fight to exist. Perspective will be expressed in broadness and lack of limitation and generalizations and bold assertions of the unknown and even bolder claims that are more absurdly unknowable. Confidence will be king, even when it brings no peace, even when it brings no purpose, and most when it brings no prosperity. Confidence will reign supreme when it supersedes perspective and stands alone as the sole emotion as it guides the soul's devotion to a place of self-admiration and despise. All that is ascertained is all that can be visible to this perspective. Steadfast and assured, willingly unobscured, with abundance of insecurity and projection kindly waiting invisible, but neatly still there, baked into this lens. I have suffered, and I will not suffer that way again. Fool me once. Shame on you, but fool me twice. These kinds of phrasings, they are the defense of what is feared. And what is worse is that being aware of anything to this effect doesn't immediately alleviate any of the stress and depression, distraction and suffering, any of the pain. The phrase, there is no peace to be found in this world, there is only stress and depression, distraction and suffering, frustration for what cannot be controlled, disappointment for responsibility that has failed, and disdain for the lack of hope experienced, provides excellent space for a worldly truth to grow in a less than positive way. The worldly truth being, where there is life, there is pain. This truth in and of itself doesn't come equipped with actions or thoughts or reason. It leaves the thinker of it to decide for themselves what it entails. Is this a simple observable fact of reality? Is this a commentary on how some things are? Is this a statement about how things should or shouldn't be? Is this a beckoning to embrace the innermost facets of nihilism? Or is this the call for action to attempt to change? Change what? The self? The environment? Other people? The world? I personally have felt and expressed different thoughts on this phrase, and I'll probably change my thoughts again over time. I believe firmly there is pain where there is life, but I do not believe that pain is all there is. The truth to me is, much of life is hard for everyone, even when some people look like they have life on easy mode. While some people work hard to present themselves as doing good to show others a life that looks put together, they probably have their own problems. And while others look like they've quit and accepted the mannerisms and language of defeat, for either party, I think there's more to tell. I myself have shifted between bouts of extreme dedication to preserve a good vibe, and a series of thoughts and feelings that are always preceded by phrases that start with the word, at least. At least I have this job. At least I do this thing. At least this person does this for me. At least I'm still alive. Both of these shifts feel far from where I am now. Both these shifts seem reasonable for where I was at the time. In my opinion, someplace between thankful appreciation and suffering, there's a calmer way to feel about life. I suppose by calm I don't necessarily mean quiet and peaceful. I just mean feeling like you're living your purpose, or at the very least, feeling indifferent in moments when things aren't clear or going somewhere. Not so much not expressing anything in a stoic way, but allowing yourself to only express what is true in the moment, rather than carry it and hold it until later. The reality is, most of the time, there isn't time. Later seems eternal. There isn't always time to stop moving or stop going forward, or stop worrying about what you should or shouldn't be doing. There isn't always time to stand by yourself and ask questions to get into a better place, be it physically, emotionally, or otherwise, let alone knowing how to be introspective in a constructive or useful and fulfilling way. I personally believe most of the issues and suffering or pain are because we try to solve this, using quotations here, problem with good actions to do, but not fully thought out solutions. Most of the time, the solutions for these kinds of things are either treated as extremely simple, such as get a better job, move to this place, change these types of relationships, exercise more, get therapy, and take a shower, or seemingly complicated, such as get a better job, move to this place, change to these types of relationships, exercise more, get therapy, and take a shower. I joke here, but the complex part is most of the time everything is easy to say and hard to do. More so if you haven't been doing a thing that is allegedly easy to do. The more time that passes between you doing the thing and the thing needing being done, the harder it feels. The novelty here, in my opinion, is there are no shortcuts for anyone's successes or failures. The person will always have to experience the stuff of life on their own. Very few get the privilege of permanent easy mode or permanent hard mode. Most of us in the middle have to learn ways to cope and cure, or as I'm growing to understand, more how to appreciate. In my opinion, the appreciation isn't just counting blessings or instances when hard work is paid off, but to appreciate opportunity to be, circumstances that have guided, and of course, the curious pains and suffering along the way. I'd say in the same way nobody likes being around the person that complains all the time, the silent struggler is just as guilty of the annoyance. Taking life in stride without vocalizing your experiences provides an air of mystery that may immediately provide peace, but will give those around you long-term confusion. In other words, we have the convenience of being complex beings without telepathy that can thrive on, even in modern times, fairly simplistic needs and wants. But strangely enough, some of the time, it's a struggle to find balance, be it trying to find balance in exercise and diet, work and play, self-expression, or something like socializing and solitude. Too much or too little breeds into how we do everything else, and how we feel most of the time. I won't get into it here in great detail, but so much of the time when people say they're okay, they're not okay. What I mean by this is they're usually operationally okay, like a car with a few scratches, dings, chipped paint, etc. i.e., they can go to work, maintain relationships, pay for this or that thing, or show up when beckoned, and probably have a story. But they're not functionally okay. The same way a car with a leak in its tire would have to stop and get more air for the tire, or drive on a flat and damage that said tire. The same way if a car might have a leak in the radiator, it would eventually need to get replaced, or it'll overheat and potentially ruin the engine. Sometimes people have surface level scratches. Sometimes people have troubles with their hardware that can make them break down temporarily, or worse, become abandoned. I use this analogy because I'm a person who comes from the cut and class of people who are used to having nice things, not having the resources to maintain them, and having to make things work. The results of this are mixed. The bright side is it's possible to make a broken lawnmower or car functional for a while longer. Mentally, this could be staying at a job that's killing you on the inside because of a sense of duty or pride, or always supporting other people even when you have nothing left to give, but never yourself because that's what you think needs to be done. The dark side is it's easy to just keep making something work while acknowledging it's a problem when it really needs fixed or replaced. For example, broken marriages, missing rearview mirrors, smashed taillights, addiction. One little side note is there are some things that are supposed to wear down and run out, over the time, expectedly, like needing more gas or changing oil. Perhaps this is food and vacation for people. For people in general, it's usually fairly hard to gauge if something's not working. The novelty here is that whatever trauma or bullshit or suffering you're experiencing in life that you haven't recognized or have put away because you have temporary fixes will in fact always be there until acknowledged and repaired, or in some cases just accepted. Much like if you have a teeny hole in your tire leaking the smallest amount of air, the hole will be there until it's patched, though the tire can be refilled and roll on. Now this, in my opinion, sort of exists on a spectrum. Not every person's going to have the same issues and problems or experiences. Not everyone has the time and resources to pick apart their own life and evaluate it, and then actively be a part of it in a positive way. But the one thing for sure is there's no real escape of it. I think of the Beatles song, or the last title card of the 1998 anime Cowboy Bebop. A black screen pops up in my imagination and just says, "You're gonna carry that weight." Time, space, ignoring or trying to externally make your world better doesn't get you out or away from the things that have made you, you. Bad and sad memories in the past don't just go away. They are there. The hard part is in most situations, nobody gets taught how to carry that weight, let alone have people to go to learn it. Most just have to live and go forward to avoid being stun locked into some form of mental illness or losing hope for their own future. And often, because of how we usually communicate, even when it's good and clear, we spend more time admiring others who seem to be guiding us when listening, and when talking, we simply give instruction to others without the why do something in a certain way, or how something might feel. As silly as it sounds, those kind of details help people reuse information from one part of their life and another part of their life, which helps with the thousands of silent, reoccurring thoughts we usually keep for ourselves throughout life. I, for one, am prone to appreciate people in earnest and deliberately not tell people how to do things, even if my way seemingly works best or better, or they ask for it. I get lost in enjoying the perspective and the potential of the person exploring the thing themselves. The loss here is we could both grow if I actively helped, and vice versa to people with me. But I, like many people, usually try to rush through things or find people that are already on the same page as me. This saves effort, but also limits experiences. In some regard, this makes sense. Surviving and living in a modern world that asks so much of an individual is complicated and takes a lot of resources. Time being one of the most valuable resources, why would anyone want to waste it or give more than necessary? And why would I cheat someone out of using theirs wisely? So in my opinion, in many of these instances of sharing a moment, I find it is often easier to dig a hole than to dig a hole and to fill it back in properly. I think the fact that holes don't always get backfilled is what sort of causes most of the suffering. If we take out something and put nothing back, there is emptiness. In a literal sense, this leaves space for danger, for injury, for risk. In a metaphorical sense, when something or someone takes a piece out of an individual, that thing or person may not always be what can or will put another piece back in. When we become all holes, we won't feel whole. We become Swiss cheese people. And while that sounds delicious, it's no way to live actively, let alone happily. So I'm kind of learning in some instances to fill the holes in, but not every instance. The holes in your own life could be anything, and honestly, I think it's too easy to generalize how to fill them, or even what counts as a hole in a person's life or in a moment. Sometimes it's years of trying to find safety in this world. Sometimes it's just simple, silly shit like wanting ice cream, but the store's closed. Whatever the case, I think the starting point is being present for yourself emotionally and mentally. Some ancient philosopher probably said it, but pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I think there's truth in that. No amount of success or failure will save you from experiencing pain, be it physical or mental. However, I think there's freedom in the perspective that it's okay to feel pain, and that sometimes acknowledging you're experiencing pain would make finding ways to stop it, or at least know the source much easier. The truth is, probably very few people exist in such a way that comes off that they're just being, or just existing, stress-free and carefree. Another truth to me is that I don't think a person needs to be stress-free and carefree. Rather, they should have access to the knowledge that they themselves have the tools to, in a sense, take care of those things. They can own their just being. They can own their just existing. You can own your just being. You can own your just existing. You can own your pain. But the truth is, it's hard work, and it's tedious, And the outside looking in might not recognize you or trying. And oftentimes, you yourself might not recognize you're trying either. But remember, you are here. What are your thoughts and feelings on this? What have your experiences with pain and suffering been in life? Have you found things hard or easy? Have you struggled with anything, or has it been mostly a cakewalk? Please share in the comments below. For the rest of this, I swear I'm just laying there in Shavasana, so you can click off or leave at any time you want. I promise you I'll still be laying there for like another minute or so. Just collecting thoughts, breathing. Maybe I'm not even thinking anything at that time. I don't even remember. I'm recording this way after, but it's a regular part of the yoga practice. So, you could just end right now. You don't have to watch this part at all. There's nothing to watch or glean from here. I will not be saying or doing anything interesting. This sentence might even be cut off halfway through because it's exactly at the part, because I didn't measure the time that is here of me just laying here on the floor, not saying anything or doing anything. If you even watched, I would have just listened to this, if I'm being completely honest. I don't really watch that many YouTube videos. I mostly just listen to them. But you can click off. Go away. Go away. There's nothing to hear. There's no secret. There's not going to be a hidden secret meme at the very end. You're not going to get to see that. This is probably just wasting your time if you don't go right now. Maybe go outside. Maybe go for a walk. Maybe go for a jog. Maybe catch a couple of frogs or pollywogs. I think that's what they call tadpoles. I don't know. But you should get out of here. Go.